Hey there, Leo. This is your Ascendant forecast for the week ahead, going from Monday, the 15th of December, right the way through to Sunday, the 21st of December, 2025. And this is, I would say, quite an active week. It's a bit of a turning point week. We've got Mars going into Capricorn on the 15th. Now, Mars has a 23-month cycle. So, it's been a while, almost 2 years since he was last here. And he's very, very strong in the sign of Capricorn. It's when he wants to get moving and start mobilizing things. So that's, a bit of a shoot forwards for everybody. We've also got the new moon in Sagittarius on the 20th at 28 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius, and it's in a conjunction with the Galactic Centre. So it's aligned to the center of our galaxy. And then on the 21st, we've got the December solstice, which is marking the beginning of winter if you're in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of summer if you're in the southern hemisphere. So it's all change. Moreover, as we're going through this whole week, we've got a series of squares. And as we come into Sunday, we've got 3 of these squares exact on Sunday. So yeah, it's pretty intense. Suffice to say, the next season that starts is going to pack a punch because of the square activity. We're going to be challenged to become the best version of ourselves, which is kind of right on cue. Most people sort of decide to do that around January time. We might start that a little bit earlier. But yeah, it's pretty intense. Now, what I'm going to do is pace you through this week ahead and hopefully help you see how you can use this energy to your best. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. Now, I always use slides, so let me just say a quick thank you to everybody who supports my channel. And then I'm going to bring up the 2 charts in question. Now, I'm using a whole sign Western tropical model here. What that means is every one of these houses, as they're called, each of these 12 sections, each of these houses is representing a different part of life, and with one whole sign in each house. Now, if when you look at your birth chart, you see the symbol for Leo here, and also the symbol for Virgo in this section, in this first house. It's always starting at 9 o'clock as you look at the clock face, by the way, and it goes anti-clockwise. But if you see Leo and Virgo in the first house, then have a listen to the Virgo forecast because there's going to be some extra resonance in there for you. But anyway, this is the start of the week. You'll see the moon is in the sign of Libra, the sun and Venus and Mars are all in the sign of Sagittarius. And then by the time we come to the week ahead, just after the solstice, we've got the moon, we've got Mars, and we've got the sun in Sagittarius, in Capricorn. So yeah, it's definitely a week where, whoops, we've gone the wrong way, whereby we're moving out of this Sagittarius and 5th house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and into the sign of Capricorn, which is the 6th house. So it's a 5th house to 6th house kind of energy move. You'll see here I've listed the most important things here: Mars and Sun going into the sign of Capricorn, and obviously the new moon in a conjunction with the Galactic Centre, the GC there. So yeah, let's start. Now, the first real thing that I think is important to share is the fact that on Monday the 15th, we've got the moon going into Scorpio, just here. And soon after, we've got Mars going to the sign of Capricorn. Now, this is going to be highlighting your 4th house and also your 6th house. Now, the 4th house is of home and family. And I always think that the 6th house is a bit of an extension from that because, it's really showing how you manage your home, how you manage your life, how you deal with routines and habits, your health. And so it's almost like a wellness check. The 6th house is like the office manager of your whole chart. So to me, it feels like Monday through to Wednesday, with the moon in the 4th house and Mars just newly in the 6th. To me, it feels like you're really getting ahead of yourself. Things are really important to focus on. And, I don't think you're going to be pottering and taking your time. I think you're going to be right. I need to do this, 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 and this. And I think you're going to really get ready for whatever is coming. So I do think you're kind of hitting it hard. When we come to Wednesday the 17th, we've got the sun going into an exact square with Neptune. Now, this is one of the squares I was talking about. This will have been coming in for about 4 or 5 days beforehand. We'll have gradually felt that energy build. But on Wednesday, the 17th, it's exact. Now, the sun is really showing, your ego, your desire to express yourself. And in the sign of Sagittarius and in the 5th house, it's really showing that it's really important for you to be feeding your passions right now. And so really over the last few weeks, you've focused on everything that lifts you up. And that might involve a bit of romance and intimacy, also focusing on your children, also focusing on your pet projects, the things that you absolutely love to do. But Saturn also has been doing a number here in the 8th house, which is a place of judgments. And it's a place of shared values between you and the people around you. So, for instance, the person you might be living with or married or in a relationship with, or your birth family, or the people really close to you who you consider to be like family. It just feels like there's a lot of judgment coming in. Now, is this that people are judging you for being a little bit more free, a little bit more passionate, a little bit more focused on what lights you up? Or are you actually projecting onto them, using them as a fall guy to self-sabotage? I mean, it'd be quite easy for you to say, okay, I really can't do this anymore because I can see you're judging me. I can see you think I'm lazy or whatever it is, so I'm going to stop because I've got no other choice. I really see that you could be putting the authority figure onto them. Saturn often represents a parent or, an authority. But, I think this is quite easy for it to be your own self-judgment. So, for instance, what I see coming up on Wednesday the 17th is that you are in two minds. And you're probably already coming into it. So you're loving being free to create what interests you. You're loving the spontaneity and the intimacy that this Sun and Mars and Venus and Mercury through Sagittarius has been bringing you. And that has been, really lighting you up and wanting you to get as intimate as possible. But at the same time, there's most likely a part of you that is judging you, like, oh, well, if you do this, you're not going to be able to do that. And, if you're focusing here, it's going to cost the family or it's going to cost the relationship, because a lot of shared costs come in here as well. So I suspect this is just showing where you're kind of sabotaging yourself and maybe making someone close to you as a fall guy. But you might also find that there are people around there who actually step into that role, who are like, hey, you're having it too good right now. You need to focus on the family, or you need to focus on the home, the mortgage, the bills, whatever. So, yeah, I think that is coming up. It feels a bit like there's a bit of almost like a slap in the face, like I can't enjoy myself too much. So anywhere where you've got life is to be endured, not enjoyed, I would really consider that. That's an interesting thought. Like, where did that thought come from? And you might, if you do have those beliefs, and I know I have them somewhere inside me, whose voice is it that tells you that? Is it your voice, or is it one of your parents' voices? I can hear some of these words and phrases in my head, and they definitely, they definitely sound like my parents or well-meaning adults. And, so watch that inner programming is what I would say. Now, this will ease off, but later on in this week, Venus is coming into a square with Saturn. So similar themes coming up. And so, yeah, it's not, we're not completely out of that. And then we have the moon coming into the sign of Sagittarius. And so whatever you do decide, I think the moon is coming out of this kind of judgmental 4th house position in the sign of Scorpio. And the moon is saying, okay, well, whatever happens, let's make it work anyway. And so whatever you decide, I think I think you'll make it okay for yourself. Then on Thursday the 18th, we've got Venus in a lovely trine with Chiron. And I think that's giving you a little bit more confidence, that all is not lost. And maybe the things that lift you up in passion could even help you face some slightly scary things out in the real world. Maybe you really can create and take your creations forwards. Maybe whatever has stopped you from doing that before can be healed. Chiron in the ninth house can show where maybe you've been afraid of moving forwards, afraid of, what might happen if people outside of your social circle discover you or find out about you. Normally, the ninth house is really showing where we're broadcasting, sharing, writing, where we're learning, where we're expanding, where we're traveling and moving around. And it brings in all sorts of influences that are foreign to us. But Venus here in this trine on the 18th is really showing that actually I'm really happy to be creative and to shine and be seen to shine. So I like that. And I think that's leading us really nicely to the new moon in Sagittarius on the 20th. You'll see between the 20th and 21st, there's quite a few little hits here. And it is a portal of opportunity. I absolutely recognize that. In fact, I was speaking earlier this week to Tressa Grealish from Goddess Inspire, and she's a galactic astrologer, and so I invited her to chat with me, and we've got a recording of it, and it'll be released some point in the week ahead. But we were tracking, what the activated Galactic Centre in our birth charts might represent to us going forwards. And of course, this new moon in Sagittarius is absolutely activating the Galactic Centre in our charts. So watch out for that because it will give you much more of an idea. But this new moon is highlighting and activating your fifth house, which is very much to do with what you're creating, what lights you up, what fills you with joy, and also what you want to be intimate with, so very much about new relationships, very much about relating. It's quite sensuous as well. So I do think you'll be able to have a new start in whatever it is that you're wanting to enjoy. I mean, I would be thinking in terms of how can I experience greater levels of pleasure and satisfaction? To me, they would be really good questions for around that time of the new moon. And then soon after, the moon goes into the sign of Capricorn. Now, I just want to say, I don't often talk about Lilith in these particular videos, but on the same day, Lilith is heading into the sign of Sagittarius. And so she's going to be in the fifth house, and she's highly expressed. Anywhere where she's felt shut down, all of a sudden she expresses herself and lets her true joys and passions be known. So yeah, I think this is a very big thing for you to work on right now, is how can you express yourself. It's so funny to say that, because out of all the different ascendant signs, you would assume that someone with Leo ascendant would be the most self-expressed. It is the sign that is all about self-expression. It's ruled by the sun, and the sun is all about radiating and emitting out. So I do think that this is a pretty big time. Now, as the moon moves into the sign of Capricorn, it is taking with it all of the energy of the new moon into this place of practicality. It's asking you to make a practical stand thereafter. So what you've already decided, what you've intended to do, it feels like things start to move, which is great. And then we're coming into this Mercury square North Node. It's exact at this point. I'm just going to change my view here. So you can see Mercury in your fifth house, and he's in a T square, and that's really showing up. So with the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, the North Node is always showing us where life is wanting us to focus. And so Mercury square to the South Node, I think, is really showing you that you've already learned how to express yourself quite well in terms of your earnings and from a business perspective. But maybe you haven't learned to express your skills and talents in a way that includes the people in your life, in a way that maybe brings in earnings for everybody, or maybe you haven't learned to express yourself in a way that allows other people to earn. So I don't know, there feels like there's a bit of a tension there, but Mercury could be used like your creative way of seeing the world and talking about it and communicating and sharing your passion. I think you might be coaching somebody close to you and helping somebody else achieve their voice. And then we're coming into the 21st, which is Sunday. Now, on Sunday, we've got the Sun in an exact square with Neptune. We've got Venus in an exact square with Saturn. And we've also got Jupiter in an exact square with Chiron. Now, I've been talking about this Jupiter and Chiron square for quite some time. You know, Chiron, wherever we're feeling sore about and vulnerable about, Jupiter has been inflaming it for ages. And so Jupiter in the 12th house has been maybe setting your fears and anxieties alight. You know, he expands things. And in the 12th house, you know, our mind can run rampant in the privacy of your own mind without anyone necessarily knowing. So you may well have found that your fears of what lives in the outside world, outside of what you know to be safe, it's a bit of a common theme. And so around, you know, in between the new moon and the solstice, you might notice that your inner programming is really up for review. You know, you can really see where it might not be helping you. And then the Sun in a square to Neptune is also showing not just where you might stop your own voice, as I was mentioning, you know, with Sun square Saturn, you might be self-sabotaging yourself so you don't explore your creativity or your birthing potential. You know, the Sun in a square to Neptune can sometimes leave us a little bit lost and alone. You know, we feel like we can't trust our intuition. We feel like we can't trust other people with our sensitivity, and we're hypersensitive around this time as well. We really feel everything, and in that feeling everything, we wonder who we are. You know, it's very difficult to define ourselves around that time. So you might find that the idea of your personality just feels so off and different and changed. And also at the same time, Venus is in a square with Saturn. Again, that's a time when people often feel quite disconnected, like there's not as much love around, and maybe we feel like we have to soldier on our own. So yeah, leading in between the new moon in Sagittarius taking place here, and then the Sun going into the sign of Capricorn, I think you're on a bit of not a vision quest, but to me, it feels like you've got to do this next part of the journey just on your own. And this part of the journey is, how can I experience more joy? How can I experience more passion? And how can I stand for my own self-expression, even if nobody is there by my side, even if nobody approves? How can I still express myself and take this forwards? And then as we come into the solstice, as the Sun comes into the sign of Capricorn, it's really setting you up for the next season ahead to be working on your self-esteem, to work beyond and through your self-doubt, so that your voice becomes clearer and clearer, and what you're expressing about yourself and your passions is really heard and felt. As the Sun comes into the sign of Capricorn, you might have to move things around in your diary. You're going to have to make some changes, most likely, to be able to accommodate for this evolving, more creative you. So they're my thoughts. And of course, that's leading up until, you know, for the next week, which will be the last full week in the week of Christmas. So we're really drawing to an end of 2025. But yeah, they're my thoughts for this week ahead. Now, if you like the way I look at charts and you would like a little bit more, I've made my community space absolutely free. If you want to join it, it's above. You can scan the QR code just above my face on this video, or you can go into the description notes attached to the video on my channel page and just click on the link to go to my school community, and it's www.school, that's SKOOL, school.com/feelgood astrology. Now, in my free community, there are Monday to Friday forecasts where I'm really looking at every single moon activity, all the main moon activities. And there's also a weekly forecast for all 12 signs for your relationships and connections in the week ahead, and also your career, money, and ambition forecast too. So there's a lot there, plus discussion. If that sounds like something that would really help you or ease you, then just get in touch. Now, you might also, like, if you like this and think, well, how can I make astrology work for me? You might also want to learn astrology with me. I'm starting formal classes from the 6th of January. It's 4 terms that I'm running next year in 2026. And if you'd like to join me, again, go to my free community on school.com/feelgood astrology, and you can find all the details there. So have a beautiful week ahead. Hope to hear from you soon. Take care and catch you next time. Bye for now.